So, if you're just joining us, or if it's been a while, we're just at the halfway mark in a 6-week course that I'm calling Misinterpretations and Misconceptions, New Testament edition. And so this is a class where every week we will take usually a particular verse that is commonly misunderstood, whether within the church or outside of the church. And we'll unpack the ways that it has been misinterpreted in the past, and we'll work together to make sure we are interpreting it rightly. We also use this not just as a time to take particular texts and topics and gain a more biblical understanding, but to increase our facility with interpreting the Bible in general. So every week I try to pick a principle or technique, something that we will illustrate with the topic at hand, but will apply to all of our Bible reading. So we grow in our Bible reading and in our Bible study. So upcoming, our next 3 weeks after today, these are our myths. These are our things that are not true. Hell is the absence of God. You're commanded to tithe. You're commanded to go to church. None of this is true. Now, these are deliberately provocatively worded. If you're feeling angst, you're like, wait a second, that's on purpose. I want you to feel angst. And if you want that angst to be resolved, you have to come and you have to show up when we handle the topics. You are not allowed to apply the title of the topic, and if you don't show up, you're not allowed to. You have to ignore this. You're not allowed to apply just the titles that are on the board. Like, oh, I don't have to go to church. See you. I'm not coming back next week. No, if you want to apply, you have to be here. So these are our provocative titles for you to show up and engage with these things. A lot of the misinterpretations, misconceptions, they get very popular and they spread. We talked about that last week and just how it's possible for things to spread far and wide and not to be challenged. And so maybe we'll hit one that you've believed or that you've heard a favorite pastor teach. I have full disclosure, and we'll tell you even as we get there. I have believed, I have taught some of these things. So our goal is not to tear anyone down or toss anyone out. Otherwise, you'd have to toss me out. Our goal is just to become together ever more faithful to Scripture and building our lives and our doctrine on the Bible ultimately, and not just tradition that's been handed down to us insofar as it's not faithful to the Bible. So in our very, very first class, we looked at a verse that is arguably the most popular verse outside of Christian circles. Arguably the most popular verse among non-believers, the one that non-believers are most likely to know. You shall not judge. Today, we're going to look at a verse that is arguably the most popular verse in Christian circles. At least among those who profess some sort of faith, who identify with Christianity in some sort of way, this is arguably the most popular, most cited verse. Anyone have any guesses what I'm thinking? I can do all things. Yes. So we're going to look at Philippians 4:13. And I'll just give the Jeremiah off the top of his head version. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. This is a very popular verse. You guys know that this is a very popular verse among anyone who makes any sort of profession. You see this publicly more than maybe you see any other verse. Athletes wear this. It's very common, right? I forget the boxer, but there was one famous boxer who was printed on his shorts. I don't know who I'm talking about. I don't follow boxing. There's a boxer, famous guy. He would print it on his shorts. More recently, I mean, this is actually not that recent, so probably dating me, but I remember Tim Tebow, when he was popular, the football player, and he did it on the, whatever that's called, the eye paint under the eyes. I don't even know what that's for, but the football players, they paint eyes, and so he would paint Philippians 4:13. Very popular in certain theological circles. I'm going to quote someone. Probably many of you could guess who I'm quoting. This is what he has to say about Philippians 4:13. Most people tend to magnify their limitations. They focus on their shortcomings. But Scripture makes it plain. All things are possible to those who believe. That's right. It is possible to see your dreams fulfilled. It is possible to overcome that obstacle. It is possible to climb to new heights. It is possible to embrace your destiny. You may not know how it will all take place. You may not have a plan, but all you have to know is that if God said you can, you can. That's right. I wasn't gonna ask. I wasn't gonna pick on names, but you guys knew who I was quoting. So this is a very, very common verse and very, very commonly cited. And as we've seen in our previous weeks, we've introduced principles that we want to be applying. We want to think about the context in which this is said. Our three C's for interpretation: context, context, context. You consider the wider biblical context. You consider the whole book of Philippians. You consider the specific passage in which this verse occurs. All of this is essential for us actually understanding what Paul is saying. Last week we talked about thinking through the specific argument structure. So when you're looking at that near context, how does this fit in with the presentation that Paul is making, particularly when you're looking at something like an epistle, a Pauline epistle, where Paul is making an argument. There is a logic, there is a structure to what he's saying. You want to look and see, how does this fit in that structure? Today, we're going to talk about the concept of, many of you may have heard this before, so when we talk about meaning, and we say, what does this mean? The very idea of meaning and meaning in language and meaning with words or meaning with sentences has been helpfully unpacked into kind of two pieces: sense and referent. And so we're going to think about this today. We're going to think about these two pieces, not because we need to burden ourselves with technical hermeneutical terminology, but because making this recognition, which is something you all already do, even if you're not familiar with the lingo, we all speak English, we're all fluent, we all know how to communicate meaning, we all know how to understand meaning. Sometimes we misunderstand each other, and that's what we do with the Bible too. But we all do this naturally. We all recognize the inherent distinction between sense and reference, and we'll unpack this in a moment. But just as we mentioned last week, the reason we do this, the reason we point out something that we do naturally, that we do automatically in interpreting, is to help us just to be more conscious of it. Because sometimes when you're more conscious of it, you can prevent yourself from making mistakes. You can or you're dealing with something difficult. You can slow down and you can start asking yourself, okay, what's going on here? Let's unpack this. Let's take it slow. Much of your Bible interpretation is just a matter of slowing down, reading the Bible slowly. And so, what am I talking about when I say meaning? And we think about meaning of words, and meaning of sentences. And we can break that into two different ideas: the sense and the reference. So you can think about it in terms of an individual word. All words, when they're used in context, when you're speaking, have both a sense and then they have a referent. The sense is the idea, abstracted, that the word is conveyed. We might call it the dictionary definition, right? The dictionary definition. This is the sense of this word. The referent is the thing it's referring to in the real world or in the current discourse. And these are not the same. These are not the same. So you have words, we'll take an individual word. This word has an abstracted meaning, like a dictionary definition. The idea of what this word is conveying. But it also, when you're actually using the word, it has a referent. It has something it's referring to in the real world, in your present discourse. Let's pick a sentence. My wife made pumpkin bread last night. This is true. Not helpful. But my wife made pumpkin bread last night. Wife. This word. This has a sense. Has an abstracted idea. Someone unpack for me. What's the sense of the word wife? More specific than that. What when we use the word wife? Spouse. Yep. So spouse. It actually is more specific than just spouse, right? Could we? A female spouse, right? And so you guys know that. General, the female spouse. It's a great two-word capture of the sense of the word wife. In this sentence, because I'm speaking this, who's the referent for the word wife? What is the referent, or who in this case? Huh? No, who did, so the referent is who this refers to in the real world, or in the distance. It's Lexi, right? Lexi is the referent. Lexi is who I'm talking about. So when you talk about the meaning of this sentence, yes, the meaning includes like what is the idea of the word wife. Like I have to understand the abstractness of wife. Like if you're not an English speaker, you've never heard the word wife before, you're probably going to get tripped up. You're like, okay, what is that? You have to have some sense of the abstracted meaning of what a wife is. But also, if you want to understand my meaning, you have to have some sort of context where you're understanding who I'm referring to or what I'm referring, not always a who or what I'm referring to by using the word wife. And so this is important because the sense and the referent, though always related, right? Like they're always connected when you're actually speaking, they aren't the same thing, and they aren't necessarily, how to say this? So they're not the same thing. They are connected, but they don't have a perfect overlap. So here's an example. We can pick a totally different word with a totally different sense and give it the same referent. So we can say Ketsy's mom taught her math. What's the sense of the word mom? Abstracted. What is it? Someone comes, they don't speak English. They say, what does mom mean? What's the sense? I heard parent, female parent, right? Mom, female parent. That's the sense of the word mom. And then you also have, also maybe bundled in the sense, or maybe the kind of feels for the words, like mother, mom, mommy. Those all have slightly different feels. So we've got senses that are attached to our words. What's the referent? What's the referent to Ketsy's mom? Lexi. You feel embarrassed? Well, I could use someone else. Just using her as an example. A very utilitarian marriage. So, Ketsy's mom. The referent is Lexi. My wife. The referent is Lexi. Does my wife and Ketsy's mom mean the same thing? This is kind of a trick question. Depending on what you mean by mean. Depending on what you mean by mean. If by mean, and again, we use this word meaning to cover both together and to sometimes focus on one or the other. If by meaning you refer to who it refers to, then yes, Ketsy's mom and my wife mean the same thing in the sense that they both refer to the same person. However, if you're focusing on the idea of sense, wife and mom mean something very different. They are related, but they are different. So you can have two different words with two different senses that have the same referent. You had a question? Yes?
Comforter.
Say that again?
Comforter.
Comforter. Oh, well, so you can see the semantic overlap, right? Like the overlap between a mom and a wife? Yes. So you have words that have different senses, but different senses but the same referent. You can also have that in the opposite direction, where you can have the same referent, you can have words with the same sense but different reference. So, let's say I will say my oldest daughter likes art. And I'll do another sentence right away. My youngest daughter likes dancing. What is the sense of the word daughter? Someone doesn't speak English and they want you unpack this for them. What is the sense of the word daughter?
Your child, female child.
child, female child in this case. My oldest daughter likes art. So who's the referent? Hadassah. That's my oldest daughter. If you didn't know. My oldest daughter, Hadassah. She likes art. Okay, my youngest daughter likes dancing. What's the sense of the word daughter? Well, sense. I'm tricking you. Female child. Who's the referent? Ketsi. So these two words have the exact same sense. It's the same word. It's the same word. So here's a case where the same word with the same sense is used with two different referents. So this is why it's important to make this distinction. You do it naturally, as I said. This you already know. All of you already know this. It's intuitive. And I'm just pointing it out to help us slow down. Here's how. So let's jump back to our verse now. I can do all things through Christ. Actually, let's put that ending part. Who strengthens me or gives me strength. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. We all, if we speak English, have a general feeling for what the sense of all of these words are. Like, we could all probably give you a dictionary definition for all of these words. So the question is, though, what's the referent? What are these words referring to in context and in the real world? Now, the men's Bible study just finished Philippians, and they just finished, so this is right at the end. So they've gone through this verse. So people who are at the men's Bible study, you can't help. You let everyone else do the work themselves. So let's put ourselves, before we even start trying to unpack this in the right way, let's put ourselves in the sense of the wrong way. All right, so this is a very commonly used verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We know the sense of these words. Let's unpack the reference, assuming just a popular usage. Just a popular usage. What do you think do, the verb do? What does this refer to? What things, in the popular usage, when an athlete puts I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me on their face or on their clothes, what's the reference for do? What things in the real world, what actions is do encompassing? Sports. So sports, yeah, catch a ball.
Ability to do something.
Ability, right? Ability. So, accomplishment, right? The what you need. Ability is the right word. I don't know why I'm trying to find other words. Ability is a great word. Ability to do. Say it again.
Encouragement.
I'm not sure. Although for do, I think that comes later. But yes. So I can do all things, right? Like another way we think of this is, what synonyms might we pop in there? I have the ability, right? Or I can accomplish. I can accomplish. I have the ability. So this is the kind of real world reference that people apply this do. I guess it's really can do, right? The real world reference to can do. I'm able to do. I'm able to what? I have this ability. Or I'm able to accomplish. Okay, well, what's the all things then? What are the all things in the kind of popular usage? What reference in the real world do the all things refer to?
Win.
Say win. Win what? Okay, yeah, so win. Achieve victory.
Or a lot of workout people will use it too, I can lift this super heavy weight.
Meet a fitness goal. Fitness goal. And if we wanted to abstract that, we can just say, meet any goal, right? Any goal. Other things you can unpack what is involved in the all things.
Usually they think of positive things that they can do.
Okay, positive things. So things you want, right? Things you want to do. Goals, like in the sense I can achieve a victory. Anything really you want to happen in your life. Anything you want to happen in your life that in any logical sense you have some control over is probably what's being bundled when we hear the popular interpretation of this. I can do all things. What's the reference to all things? Anything. Anything you want to happen in your life. That's what the referent of the all things is. All right. Now let's do who strengthens. Oh, so it's just strengthens. What is the referent to strengthens? What activity, what thing is Christ doing in the popular interpretation? So if the do is, have the ability, accomplish, if the all things are anything you want to happen in your life, what's the strengthening action? What's the referent to this in the actual real world? What would this mean? So here, yes, encourage could be. I think it's actually usually a little stronger. So Christ encourages. He offers maybe some cheerleading in the, not to put it too pedestrian. Other things that would be involved in the strengthening in the popular.
I think it's like any shortfalls I have in doing what I want, God's going to help me finish the job.
Yeah, so make up the difference. We'll say it that way. God's going to help you make up the difference. Any shortfalls you have, any lack of ability, any lack of will, lack of belief, God's going to make up the difference. He's going to help you. You're here, you want to be here, He'll get you the rest of the way. Other things that we might say are the referent to this word, strengthens. What is the real world action that would be happening? Power. So give me more than that.
You have the power to overcome.
So give power. Give power to overcome. So maybe there's like an obstacle in your way. Maybe it's not just I want to be here, I'm here, and God needs to help me make up the difference. Maybe, man, I could be here, but there's something in my way. Like I could, but there's something in my way. And so what does it mean? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The strength is He gives me the power to overcome this obstacle, to mow it down, to keep going. Is that hand, Tony? Yeah.
In context, is talking about his needs and his situation and adapting and being able to adapt to the situation.
Well, yes. So, and we'll transition there now. So we get we've got this sentence, and you can abstract it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But we all naturally, we understand the sense of these words. We plug in reference. We plug in real-world reference, real-world actions, real-world activities, real-world things. I can do, I can accomplish, I can achieve, I can have the ability, I can, overcome all things. Anything I want in my life. I want to happen, I don't have it. I want it, I don't have it. I want this going on, it's not going on. All those. And Christ who strengthens me. Man, He will encourage me through this. He will make up the difference where I'm lacking. He will give me the power to overcome. So we plug in these reference whenever we hear this. And so then now the question is, are these reference right? Are these reference right? So now let's flip over, if you're not there already. Flip over to Philippians 4:13. And we got to back up, as we have pointed out already. We got to back up. So let's flip over to Philippians 4, and we'll start in verse 1. We'll start in, or not 1, 10. We'll start in verse 10. Who will read Philippians 4, verse 10, all the way through 13 for us? Whoever gets to it first and is confident and brave, go ahead, just read it out loud. Philippians 4, 10 through 13.
But I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last your care for me has flourished again, though you surely did care, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in regard to need, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
All right, so now we have a context. Because, and his is just another point, which again we all recognize intuitively. While a word may have a particular referent in one particular context, right? The things we've talked about, can do mean those things? Can all things mean those things? Can strengthen mean those things? Can it refer to those things in the real world? Are people with the popular interpretation making some sort of linguistic error? No, of course not. Yes, these things can mean, these words can mean these things. These words can be used in these ways. But no word ever, both with sense and referent, no word ever means all the things it can mean in a language in context, right? Daughter can refer to however many women are on the planet, right? That word can refer to however many women who are on the planet currently. And when you use the word daughter, you usually mean probably one or two or three, maybe, when you use it. So just because it can refer to something doesn't mean it is. And so it's, again, we know this naturally, we know this intuitively, so we want to take the time sometimes, if there is ever a debate, if there is ever confusion, we want to take the time to slow down and go, okay, what is the sense of this word? Make sure I get that, have that, and now what is it referring to? And so we've got this context. We've got this context. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that you have revived your concern for me. You were concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I'm speaking of being in need. Paul's like, I'm not trying to get anything out of you. Like, I don't need you to send me anything. Don't send me anything. So I've learned in whatever situation I am to be content. Don't send me anything more. They already sent help. I know how to be brought low. I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. So this context provides the ground from which we will be able to ascertain what are the reference to these words. What does he mean? We know that words don't mean all the things they can mean. So what does he mean by them? What is he referring to? So you take something like all. You may have heard this adage before, all. What does all mean? All means all, and that's all means. Have you heard this adage before? All means all, and that's all means. This, all never means, I'm speaking hyperbole. All never means all. That's not, all always has referent. So if you say, Jeremiah, you like Chinese food? We're going to get Chinese food. What do you want? And I say, oh, I like it all. And then you say, oh. And then you buy some grass clippings and pebbles, and you give it to me, and what's this? And you said, well, you said you like it all. Is that what I meant? Is that what I meant by the word all? No, what did I mean by the word all? Yeah, and even more specific. Whatever's on the menu at this Chinese restaurant, you can order. So words have meaning in context. They also have just inherent logical limitations, which we all know. We all use these naturally. When, I'm forgetting, when John says that I think a couple of the other Gospels say too, when John says all Jerusalem went out to see Jesus, was the city empty? Was no one back there? No, we understand this is the normal way we use this language. It has a referent in context. And so we got to understand what the referent in context is for our verse. So let's start with that all, actually. Actually, that comes first, if you don't need to know that. But in Greek, it comes first. So it's all I can do. All I can do. Right? So you read it that way, and that's actually even helpful. And he says, I'm not speaking of being in need. I've learned whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low. I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I've learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. All I can do. Right? Okay, so then what is the referent for the word all? What is Paul referring to? What is his all? What is his all things that he's talking about? Hunger. Hunger and plenty. Sickness. So what I heard? Abase and abound. All right? Abase and abound. So we have the specific things he says, right? And you immediately recognize That in context, Paul is referring to these specific things. He's like, I know how to be brought low. I know how to be abased. I know how to abound. I can face plenty and hunger. I can face abundance and need. And what do you notice about these?
Just like seeing what's going on in his life, what's happening in his life. Just talking about it.
Well, so he's talking about particularly what's going on in what he's faced, right, in his own life, and even in the way I wrote these. We'll come back to actually sickness in a moment. We'll pause with that one. I do want that on the board. But what also do we notice about this list, even the way I wrote it? Opposites, right? I've written it in pairs: hunger, plenty, abase, abound, abundance, and need. So we've got pairs. So what are these pairs doing? They are opposites, right? Opposite ends of the spectrum. And so he said, like all of these things, both ends of the spectrum, all I can do. So he just gave you a couple spectrums: hunger, plenty, abase and abound, abundance and need. And we might, I think, legitimately mention ones that he didn't mention, so long as it's actually fitting with the idea. So he doesn't say sickness, but what might be our pair here? Sickness and health, right? Sickness and health, hunger and plenty, abase and abound, right? So we've got these opposites, these ends of a spectrum of human experience. And particularly, on the one end of the spectrum is experiences that we don't like, which is an understatement, a very strong understatement. Situations states that cause pain, that cause discouragement, that are difficult situations, positive situations too, but on that end of the spectrum, difficult, suffering, where there is suffering, hunger, abasement, need, where I have something that I lack. And he says, all of what? All of these things. All of these, how might we summarize? All the good and the bad. All the life situations, I think one of you said, the life situations that you may find yourselves in, whether it's something you're happy about in the moment, or whether it's something you are vehemently not happy about, whether it's something you absolutely wish is not the case. You can, this is what we is what is particularly in Paul's mind when he thinks about all things, all situations, and relatively speaking, obviously there's such a thing as personal responsibility, but relatively speaking, what is also true of these things when we call them life situations, these are not your choice necessarily, right? Like if you're facing hunger in the sense of not like, oh, I skipped breakfast, so I'm hungry. No, you're facing hunger in the sense. What does he mean when he says hunger?
Hunger in jail.
Like I have no access to food. For some reason I am not able to get the food that I need, so I am in a state of hunger perpetually. So you're in a state of hunger. This is not something that you choose. This is not something that you want. These are external things. These are life situations you find yourselves in. Rhonda, was that a hand? Oh no, exactly. Yeah, careful. If I call on you, you have to talk. So you know. Okay, so we've got already, and we started with all because actually all in Greek is right at the beginning, and it helps you. I mean, we know this in context. When you don't even need to have a Greek word order. The second you read this in context, you immediately, you kind of intuitively understand what's the all things. He's talking about the situations he just listed. Like these, but especially you hear it in Greek. It's like I can face hunger and plenty. I can face abundance and need. I can face being low. I can face being exalted. I can do. Like immediately you hear, okay, I understand the referent. It's these life situations, these extremes, no matter where. And by saying the extremes, you're covering everything in between, right? Like, yeah, any of these situations. Trita.
So is it safe to say then that the world's misunderstanding of that whole verse is if we only like to think of the positive things that we can do, but yet we disregard the things that are negative?
It's probably even stronger than that. Probably even stronger than that. Certainly a part of it, because we're ignoring the one half. But even then, a difference between what we've noticed here versus, actually these are the opposite. But what we've noticed here versus the common referent that's put here. The common referent that's put here is things that you want. Things that you want to do. Things that you want to accomplish. Things that you want to have. But here we're talking about things outside of your... This isn't even achievement, right? This is just where you find yourself. Yeah, out of our control. What's happening to me? What's happening to me, not what I'm doing. Now, what about the word? Which one should we do? We'll do, yeah. Well, in that case, which one? Let's do. Let's do, right? In this case, so if the referent of all things are these various life situations, whether they're positive or negative, on the extremes, suffering, hunger, having enough, which is also worth, we'll come back to that. Like, oh, I can have enough. I could do that. Of course I could do that. But we'll come back to that. But we know the all things, these situations, all these types of situations you may find yourself in, the horrible end of the spectrum, the happy end of the spectrum. These are the things that Paul can what? So what does he mean by do? What other verbs might we supply here? In fact, do is probably not the best one. And, again, you can know this just with English. But as a little Greek helper, there actually is no word do in Greek. We have to supply a verb. It just says literally in Greek, I'm able. I'm able. I'm able what? So that's the question. So all things, he says, I'm able. I'm able what?
Endure.
Huh? Endure. Ah. Persevere. I'm going to spell this wrong. Well, just persevere. That's what it's supposed to be. Persevere. Bear. Right? Accept. Ah. Why'd you say that one? Be content. Did it just come to your mind? Chris.
Yeah, it's up in part of the context.
Yeah. So treat is just soaked in the Bible that it unconsciously, you see.
So if you use it as generally everybody uses it, if you're not content with the way things are, you want something better. I want $1 million. I want to make this be successful. The thing I'm going to do. I'm not content with this thing. But Paul is different. When you back up, he's already content.
Ah.
Content with this situation.
Yeah. This is huge. This is huge. If you just heard Chris, just say it a little bit louder so everyone down here can hear. So I will hear you down here.
If you read it just at face value, like the world reads it, you're not content. You want to get to that goal, man, and you can say God's going to help you. But Paul is already content, according to this context. He's already content with his situation. Now that changes how what that means. It changes what this means.
That's huge. It's one of the most insidious things about the way this is misused. It's not just a mistake. It's almost the opposite. It's almost the opposite of what's being said. So, Shrita mentioned be content, and Chris mentioned, look, that's in context, right? Back in verse 11. He says, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content, right? So here's our sandwich. I've learned how to be content. Now he gives you some examples. I've learned how to be content in every circumstance, right? Hunger, plenty, abundance, need. All I can. All I can what? Be content. I've learned how to be content in every situation. Then he lists a couple, and then he says, all of it, I can be content. In context, that's probably even your best actual verb to put in there. I can be content. And which includes these ideas. I can endure this. I can persevere. I can bear it. I can accept it. This is huge. So then, and I think you guys are exactly right, if all things here are these situations, clearly it is, and if the do, right, what does he mean? I'm able to, ultimately, it's be content. It's to endure these things, to accept these things, to bear these things. Then what is this action that Christ does? What is... And this, we don't necessarily have a easy contextual answer, but because we're understanding the meaning, we can start to fill this in maybe a little more exactly with a better referent, rather than, give me what I need to accomplish this. Give me the ability. Make a, what might strengthens then mean? What real world activity, what thing, what is God actually doing, what is Christ actually doing then when we say he strengthens me? I saw a hand. Claude.
Dictionary definition. Careful and persistent effort that leads to prosperity, leadership, and favor from God. It involves a steadfast focus and consistent effort in spiritual service, daily work, and upholding God's commands.
And so that's the definition for which word? It was, or for the verse as a whole? For the verse or the specific word?
Say again?
Was that you were reading for the whole verse or for a specific word?
Whatever.
Just as a whole. Yeah. So we hear this. I think particularly in some of the things you read, we're unpacking even more what it means to be strengthened. Yeah. Oh.
Diligence.
Yeah, diligence, right? So diligence to make diligent. So is that a hand, Tony?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, so what is God doing? What is Christ doing in strengthens? What's the reference to this?
Through Christ.
Huh?
The same through Christ who strengthens me. So the strength is coming through Christ. So that is it's your faith being built up.
So Christ might be
Strengthening in your faith.
building faith. I saw other hands. Will.
Upholding,
Upholding. What do you mean by that? Unpack it for us.
like anchoring, kind of like he's keeping us, he's not letting us lose faith in these times. So that in the opposite of that, it would make us gain faith.
Not losing it. Keeping us from losing faith. So this is related, right? So there's building faith, there's strengthening my faith, but then there's just preventing you from losing faith. Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah, right? Keeping this overall, right? This trust. Other things that we might supply here for this action. What is Christ doing when we say he strengthens? Comforts. Why do we say that? Because how is comfort relative here? Relevant here.
It means with strength.
Say that again?
Because it means with strength. Breaking it down.
I mean, the original English does come from with strength, but that's not what we mean when we say comfort, right? Like when we say in English comfort, what do we mean? So often, well, yes. So there's comfort in that sense.
It makes you feel better in hard circumstances.
Yeah. So something like assure. I heard very generic, but help you feel better. Feel better. Someone else's hand. No?
About relying.
Oh.
You're relying. Yeah, relying.
So you in this time you'll be relying. So then how do we turn that into an action that Christ is doing, right? Because Christ is strengthening. So how would you turn that into what is Christ doing then?
Sanctify.
Yeah, working to do what?
He's doing the work, basically.
Yeah.
That we made.
So working.
He's working on us.
Yeah, we'll say it that way. Working in us, producing certain things, right? And producing. All of this, I think, bound up very much so in this keeping us from losing the faith and in fact, positively building us in faith. He is giving us all that we need to do what? To endure, to be content. And if we will end by talking about the positives, but still with that focus on the negative for a moment. When you're hungry, when you have need, when you're low, that is not something that we naturally think of is particularly easy to be content in, right? I'm hungry. I mean, I've never felt real hunger in my life. Not like real, like, man, where's my next food coming? Like, I've never felt real hunger in my life. And when I feel just my pathetic level of hunger, I don't know if I'm going to endure that well. It's not easy to be content when you're hungry. It's not easy to be, even just brought low. Brought low, what does he mean? Like, quickly give me a reference for that. What is that experience, being brought low? What types of things might Paul have had in mind from his own experience, being brought low? Imprisoned, humiliated, mocked, how he was stoned, countless beatings. And what's a huge part of the punishment for a public beating is shame. It's not just the pain, it's the public shame. You're stripped naked, everyone has to see this happen, right? A huge part of punishment in any system, but particularly in the Roman system, is the shame. So to be brought low, I don't think I have anything, a single bit of bone in my body that can naturally handle being brought low, being humiliated, being put to public shame, having to endure that. So in order to do those things, in order to be content in those types of situations, we need encouragement. We need comfort. We need resolve, right? You need energy just to do it, right? So much you'd be just drained of energy to do these things. And so if Christ enables us, if Christ enables us to what? To actually be content, to endure all those situations, what does it mean when he says he strengthens? Well, he supplies what we need to be content. He gives us the encouragement. He gives us the comfort. He gives us the resolve. He gives us the energy. Now, before we tie a bow and wrap it all up, I do want to ask, why the positive end of the spectrum? Why not just list hunger, being brought low, having need? Why did he put the positive end of the spectrum? And because that's clearly included, right, in the all things. All things. Why? Why the positive end? What is Paul saying? What does it mean then to be content, to endure or bear when you're not hungry, when you have everything you want, and when you're not low? Everyone likes you, and they're like, man, that is a stand-up guy, and I want to be like, women want him, and men want to be like him. You're like, what? When that's your life, why might we need to include that? Why would Paul have included that here? So, well, in one, we have all aspects of life being covered, and certainly, and Leanne?
Well, when we put our faith and trust in God, it's through everything. It's for the good and the bad that happens in our life. And we need to be content because he's working in us to sanctify us.
Yeah, there's still a need to be content, isn't there? Gordon?
Yeah, like Chris says, sometimes we may have more. We have what we want, but then we want more. We want more and more on top of that.
Ah.
Some people are never satisfied, right? You have a lot and you want more and more and more.
Yeah, so just because you have doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be content, are you? In fact, we notice that happen in the world all the time. We notice that happen in our own hearts all the time. Yeah.
Agur asks, give me neither poverty nor riches.
Ah, yes, he does.
If I have poor, I could dishonor you by stealing. But if I have riches, I could dishonor you by forgiving you.
Ah.
That's what we're getting at here. The good places is where we tend to fail. In our situation is where we fail in the abundance.
Yes. So there's maybe a couple sides to this. I think, like Gordon says, there is a danger where we're not actually ever content, and right? That's what Paul's talking about, being content, and we're not content even when things are going well. And there's a danger to our idolatrous hearts where we just want more and more, and so there's that danger there. And then, kind of on maybe the opposite side of that coin, as Patrick mentioned, there is a very significant spiritual danger, like we see in the Proverbs. Give me neither poverty nor riches. There are dangers that go with poverty, but there's many dangers, the scripture says, that go with riches. Forgetting God and going off into idolatry. And so these things, we need strength from Christ to endure, to be contented. Not just when things are bad, but also when things are good. Churia. Oh, Oscar, did you have?
I mean, we kind of already said it.
No, go.
But the idea that God strengthens you to not be prideful, right? Because that's kind of, but we're all kind of losing for.
But yes, but it's even better to be specific. So there is one of the dangers when things are going well is pride. And so one of the things that Christ does what would enduring your abundance mean in a Christian sense? What would being content in your abundance mean? It would mean not being puffed up with pride. It would be not being caught away from the idea that I am dependent on God, and then I start to be self-sufficient, and I think I'm self-sufficient, and I have pride. And so one of the things that God does is in strengthening us through Christ is He prevents us from pride. Absolutely right. Tony, is that a hand?
Oh, no, I was just thinking, the question, ask the question, why apostle? Because, out of the negative, I'm just thinking, it's simply because the Lord is faithful, not us. Because the Lord is faithful, He will provide. That's why we have positives, and we can survive the negative. God will provide and we get to God.
Absolutely. All right, so we're coming to the end. So now let's tie our bow. Let's make an application, right? I'll give you my sentence application, but maybe I'll ask one or two other people. So now, someone says, what does Philippians 4:13 mean? And you're going to unpack that, and you don't have an hour. Just how might you unpack Philippians 4:13 in one or two sentences? Well, at least one person has to do this besides me. I'll give you mine, but someone else.
God is sovereign over my life.
God is sovereign over my life. It means more than that, though, doesn't it? What else?
I can be content in the good and bad providences.
I can be content in the good and bad providences, right? God is sovereign over those, so I can be content. And He's going to work His sovereignty, not just I'm stuck in it, He's sovereign, but He's going to be working actively for me to make sure that I can be content in all these circumstances. Leanne.
All things that happen in my life are for my good and for the glory of God.
All things that happen in my life are for my good and for the glory of God. Meaning through these, He's not going to let me lose faith. He's not going to let me become an idolater and draw all the glory to myself. He's actually going to do ultimate good for me, and He's going to bring ultimate glory for Himself. I mean, that's right, the ultimate goal of the strengthening. We're going to get through this. We're going to come out the other side, right? There's no hardship. Here, I'll give you kind of my sense. There's no hardship, right? No circumstance that you can go through. Cancer, imprisonment, job loss, spouse abandonment, burying a child, right? There is no circumstance that Christ cannot comfort, encourage, and stand you up in so that your faith and your witness remains intact and so that you press on towards the end. Let's close. Lord, we do thank You so much that You do give us strength through Your Son, and we ask particularly that You would do this now. Not just that we would understand this verse, but that You would do this verse, that You would strengthen us, strengthen all of us as individuals, strengthen our families, strengthen Honolulu Bible Church with the strength that comes through Christ, so that we can be content in all that we have, so that we can endure, so that no matter what situation comes, we will come out of it with our witness intact, with our love for You intact, with our faith for You stronger than it was before, so that You might be glorified by what happens here and not ashamed of Your people. So we do ask that You would strengthen us through Christ. For all things, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, you are pseudo-dismissed. You have to come to church. You can't leave.